I'm male 27, am the second oldest of 4 kids. Amy, female 29, myself, Robert, male 26, and Krista, female 22. We're a pretty close-knit family. However, I feel that Robert's engagement to this girl, Rebecca, 26, somewhat threatens that. Robert met Rebecca about 5 years ago when they were studying at university, and they started their relationship about 2 years ago. At first, our parents, male 65 and female 63, were largely okay with things, as we all thought the arrangement was temporary. While they didn't openly disapprove of Rebecca, they constantly reminded Robert that she had too different a background, making it unlikely for them to take the relationship seriously. For some context, Rebecca is relatively polite, but a little crude and somewhat lacks modesty. According to Robert, she's developed a taste for expensive things, and he's often happy to indulge her. Amy disapproved from the start. She would tell Robert that Rebecca was crude and only after his money, and that he shouldn't entertain anything with Rebecca. Krista and I wouldn't say too much about it, but as things got more serious between Robert and Rebecca, I would try to remind Robert that we don't have the same values as Rebecca and that our parents wouldn't approve. Knowing how our parents value certain things, Robert has kept his relationship more low-key for the past few months. For example, during the Christmas holidays, he claimed to be traveling to Europe with his friends, when in reality, he spent time with Rebecca and her parents. Next week, we have a large extended family gathering from my father's side. Earlier this week, Robert told Amy and me on a group call that he had proposed to Rebecca, and she said yes. Amy was furious with this and told Robert that Rebecca was an unsuitable match for him and that our parents would be livid. Robert said that they would understand eventually, and Amy then told him that he was being childish and would be given a harsh reality check when he broke the news to our parents. I was even a little annoyed that he would make such a plan without discussing it with us first, but I decided not to say anything. After Amy left the call, Robert asked me if it was appropriate to tell our parents. I told him that it wouldn't be. He then asked why, and I told him that he already knew that marrying someone like Rebecca would cause significant embarrassment to our parents, particularly in the presence of our family, friends, and extended relatives. He got upset with me and told me that he was hoping for my support and that I disappointed him. My intention wasn't to hurt his feelings. I only wanted to give him a small glimpse of how our parents would react when they found out. Am I the idiot? Edit. She wore a crop top and leggings to our last family gathering. She also tried to engage in PDA with Robert. She swears quite regularly in casual conversations. Neither I nor my wife would want to engage in PDA. I think it's indecent and shouts insecurity. Even Robert sometimes looks a little embarrassed when Rebecca insists on hanging off of his arm. We don't humiliate ourselves and put our relationship on display for everyone. You are the idiot. Rebecca isn't threatening your close-knit family. Your close-knit family's blatant snobbery is. You don't have a problem with Rebecca developing a taste for expensive things. You have a problem with Rebecca having expensive things because you don't think she deserves them. Robert wasn't keeping his relationship low-key by spending the holidays with his future in-laws. He was avoiding your family. I don't blame him one bit. She's his fiancée, no matter how often you put the word in air quotes because you don't like it. Also, referring to her as a girl when she's 1 year younger than him, and the parents were okay with it as long as he wasn't serious. Like, yeah, she can be your plaything, but you have to dispose of her in due time. Ew. And then they can't believe their brother didn't discuss the proposal with the family first. Are they living in Downton Abbey? You and your entire family sound insufferable. Info. Is different background the dog whistle for I'm racist and classist that it seems to be? Ah, yes. Miss Elizabeth Bennet is completely unsuitable for Mr. Darcy because of her low social status, straight out of Pride and Prejudice. Hopefully the brother distances himself. The odds are he goes no contact soon. Yep, she doesn't keep quiet. She disagrees. She corrects Daddy. She doesn't giggle and blush and acquiesce. Gag. She's absolutely a woman who doesn't know her place. Everything OP mentions as crude characteristics sound exactly like what my father's family sounds like, who disowned me for being free-spoken and then, gasp, getting a doctorate. Immodesty is code for lack of shame for being herself. This woman is polite but crude. Robert and Rebecca are likely the only people in this family that aren't insufferably misogynistic and classist. I wish them well, far, far away from toxic families. Update. Am I the idiot for telling my brother that his fiancé is embarrassing? I spoke with Krista this evening. Earlier today, Amy had brought her up to speed, so she's familiar with the situation. Long story short, she overall isn't too interested and thinks the whole situation will sort itself out. While she thinks Rebecca is a little too clingy, she believes Robert probably has his reasons for indulging her. She did mention that Amy asked her to talk to Robert and ask him to reconsider his decision, but Krista declined, as she doesn't believe Robert has done anything wrong yet. However, she said that if Robert does decide to reveal his engagement to our parents during our family gathering, she'll be upset with him, as it would seem that he intentionally wanted to embarrass them. The last thing she mentioned is that, like Amy and myself, she believes our parents will significantly reduce Robert's financial support if he decides to proceed with this engagement. She thinks this may be a good thing, as it'll give us closure on whether Rebecca's only interested in his money. If Rebecca sticks around, Krista said she would be pretty disappointed in me, especially Amy. We'll all just have to wait and see how things play out. I am worried for Robert, but if he goes ahead with this, my hands are tied. I plan to talk to Robert later and advise him to be more discreet in revealing this information to our parents. OP, this investment is crazy. LOL, he's your brother. You don't have to keep him, and he's an adult. Why do you care who he's sleeping with and who he's going to marry? Why does your family care in the grand scheme of things? Are you guys going to be piping her and taking care of her? No, it's your brother. Mind your business. Let bro be happy. Your family is embarrassed. My daughter, Alexandra, teen, hates any shortened version of her name. This has gone on since she was about 10. The family respects it, and she's pretty good about advocating for herself should someone call her Lexi, Alex, etc. She also hates when people get her name wrong and just wants to be called Alexandra. She took Spanish in middle school. The teacher wanted to call all students by the Spanish version of their name, provided there was one. So she tried to call Alexandra Alejandra. Alexandra corrected her, and the teacher respected it. She had the same teacher for all 3 years of middle school, so this wasn't an issue. Now she's in high school and is still taking Spanish. Once again, the new teacher announced if a student had a Spanish version of their name, she'd call them that. So she called Alexandra Alejandra. Alexandra corrected her, but the teacher ignored her. My daughter came home upset after the second week. I'm not the type of mom to write emails, but I felt I had to do it in this case. If it matters, this teacher is not Hispanic herself, so this isn't a pronunciation issue. Her argument is, if these kids ever went to a Spanish-speaking country, they'd be called by that name. I found this excuse weak, as the middle school Spanish teacher was actually Hispanic and had come here from a Spanish-speaking country, and she respected Alexandra's wishes. The teacher tried to dig her heels in, but I said if it wasn't that big a deal in her eyes that she calls her Alejandra, then why is it such a big deal to call her Alexandra? Eventually she gave in. Alexandra confirmed that her teacher was calling her by her proper name. My husband feels I blew this out of proportion, and Alexandra could have sucked it up for a year. The school has 3 different Spanish teachers, so odds are she could get another one her sophomore year. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. The teacher has done nothing wrong. Converting names in a foreign language is a common thing, even when it's a complete swap like Etienne and Stephen in French class. It's not a personal attack or disrespect right off the bat. The middle school Spanish teacher probably gave in because it's not worth the hassle of dealing with parents who think every kid's demand must be met, which is what this high school teacher probably should have done for their own sanity. Your husband is right that you and Alexandra are overreacting to the situation. Your email isn't going to help either. Dude, you missed the part where the teacher's not calling all the students by a Spanish name. I don't agree that some students should be singled out while others are still being referred to by their given names. Also, her logic also makes no sense. I work with a large number of European colleagues. I don't pronounce their names in my accent, and they don't pronounce my names in their accent. We all call each other the name as it's introduced to us. Not the idiot OP. Her argument is if these kids ever went to a Spanish-speaking country, they'd be called by that name. What? That's not true, and quite stupid. We don't translate names. John can be John in any country. No one would call him Hans, Juan, or Giovanni against his will, just because there's a local version of his name. The fact is that once someone tells you what they like to be called, it's a tool move to call them otherwise. She's not asking to be called Beyonce or Cookie. She wants to be referred to by her birth name. It's a shame Dad doesn't have her back as well. My brother came over for dinner the other day. He was telling my son that black cats bring terrible luck and that my son should kick our black cat out. My tween son told him, "That's a really silly superstition." My brother didn't listen and went on about how black cats are evil. I just sat there watching him ramble and letting him embarrass himself. Eventually, my son said, "Why do I have such a stupid uncle?" I laughed. I confess I laughed out loud before telling my brother it was time for him to leave. Later on, our mom called me and said I should have made my son apologize. I told her my brother has the right to say what he wants, but my son also has a right to say what he thinks, especially after my brother tried to turn him against our family cat. My mom hung up the phone on me in a huff. Do you think I should have made my son give an apology just to appease my mom? Not the idiot. And honestly, your kid sounds awesome. And it definitely sounds like you're raising him to be an intelligent, confident human being with excellent critical thinking skills. If your brother doesn't want to be the stupid uncle, he shouldn't say stupid things. Congrats on raising a smart boy that calls BS on BS. So, dumb brother went and told mommy, and she thinks your kid should apologize? So he spouts nonsense. The kid calls him on said nonsense, then gets mommy to fight his battles for him? Does he look any smarter to you now? Your kid is hilarious, by the way. The only appropriate apology here is, "I'm sorry you're so stupid, uncle." Keep an eye on your brother for your cat's safety. Sorry you're related, but don't worry. Every family has one person they want to hide in the closet. They also have one very brilliant person, too. Obviously, your son is smart and confident enough to speak up about things that are wrong. Good job parenting. My mother and I have a very good relationship. She's also babysat my daughter more times than I can count for free. The only time I've ever paid her for babysitting was when I had to leave for a work trip or something of that sort, and I needed her to babysit my daughter for at least a week. The rate was $115 a day, which was very reasonable. Last week, I told my mother that I needed her to watch my daughter for a couple of hours while I did some errands, and she told me that she won't continue babysitting my daughter unless I start paying her for every hour, not just the long trips. I refused because what kind of grandparent asks to be paid to watch their grandchild for a few hours? We got into a pretty heated argument, so I had to bring my daughter with me, which was not great. I couldn't find anyone else who was available to take her in, and her father's not in the picture. He didn't want anything to do with our daughter, so we divorced. The child support payments hardly cover her bare necessities. One of my friends who had met up with me asked why I brought her along, and when I told her that I refused to pay my mother to babysit for just a few hours, I had no one else I could hire or trust on such short notice, She told me that I should pay my mother for babysitting every time, and not just for the work trips, because the poor old woman is spending her time and energy on a kid at her age, which I don't even know what that means. I never recalled my grandmother asking to be paid to watch me. That wasn't even fathomable, and she had babysat me until I was a teenager, so I was pretty much aware. I don't know. Am I the idiot? Edit. My mother is very well off. I only ask her to babysit once or twice a week at most. Sometimes it may be only 1 or 2 times for a whole month. The rest of the time I pay a nanny to watch my daughter, but during the time she isn't available, I ask my mother. I'm also an only child. My mother's in her early 60s, and she always enjoyed spending time with her granddaughter. Wow, how absolutely full of crap you are to just presume on your mother's time. You literally said she'd babysat your child more times than you can count, which absolutely means you're taking advantage of her. Your errands were obviously to go out and enjoy spending time with your friends. You are the idiot. Pay people for their time or do the work yourself, and you choose to have a kid, which means it's your job, not your mother's, to manage her. I'm 38 with a 9-year-old son, and sometimes his energy wears me out. Granny can't be chasing your crotch goblins around at 60. No. OP should have charged Mom a grandchild rental fee for the privilege of spending time with her kid. Jesus, OP's acting like her mom may not have plans of her own. She also doesn't know what arrangement her mom had with her grandmother. I didn't find out that the neighbor who used to watch us after school was getting paid until adulthood. I pay a nanny to watch my daughter, but when she isn't available, I ask my mother. This, coupled with her errand, was to go to hang out with her friend, makes me think that OP's been dumping her daughter on Grandma to have fun on the weekends while avoiding parenting. She's asking Grandma to babysit once or twice a week, which is how many weekend days there are, and weekend days are the logical days for the nanny to have off. My brother has 50-50 custody with his ex-wife over my nephew, toddler. My brother makes more money than his ex, so even though they have my nephew the same amount of time, he still has to pay her $100 monthly. My brother will not shut the heck up about this. He complains about it constantly. When my nephew needed new shoes, she asked him to split the cost with her. He said no, and to use the $100. She said that the $100 was for monthly expenses, not large purchases. She also threatened to take him back to court. His lawyer advised him to just pay half for the shoes. Ever since then, he brings the child support up every darn day. I told him a few times it was getting old, but yesterday I lost it. I said, dude, shut up about your child support. We are all so sick of hearing this. God. My brother said I was a rude idiot. I think I can only listen to the same thing so many times before I get sick of hearing about it. It's $100. He spends more than that a month on stupid crap. It's not like he has cancer or it's $700. Then I would be more sympathetic. Am I rude and an idiot? Not the idiot. That's such a low order for child support. Almost insulting. And the fact that he still begrudges paying half for a pair of shoes is disgusting. Obviously, you could have addressed it in a better way. But seriously? $1,200 a year to attempt to make sure your child's standard of living doesn't change just because you got a divorce? What kind of parent is upset about that? That level of whining about child support would make me think that he only has 50% custody to minimize his payments, and not because he actually wants to spend time with the kid. He's not paying $100 a month for a clothing allowance. He's paying $100 a month to help the child's mother ensure the child gets the same level of care and housing with both parents. Mom's friend had shared custody. Her daughter moved between the two houses. X was supposed to pay all medical expenses. He refused to pay for new glasses. She hauled him to court, and his income had increased. She no longer had to pay child support on his time, but he had to pay a lot to her. Your brother seems headed in that direction. Tell the mom to take him to court and get more money, so he'll actually take care of his son.